Hello everyone, hi. Welcome to this panel discussion on Stagecraft. So I was going to talk to a couple of industry professionals today. I'm Grace and I'm in my third year of uni now and I'm part of the Mousetrap Youth Forum. Really excited to be here.
Hello, my name is Ekin. I'm really excited to be here as well. Oh,
there we go.
just heard myself.
Lovely.
I'm currently at drama school, second year student, and I'm a part of Mousetrap Youth Forum. So yeah, can we just get introductions, pronouns, names as well?
Yes, my name is Emma Troubridge. I work here at the Royal Opera House and I run the painting studios, so making all the scenery.
Hi, I'm Sara Tyndall. I'm Head of Hair and Makeup at the Lion King at the Lyceum Theatre.
I'm Sarah Hamza. I'm the Head of Costume at the Young Vic Theatre.
Amazing. So the way it's going to work is we've got a couple of questions to ask them first, and then we're going to open it up to the house, and we also have people online joining us so they can ask questions as well. So the first part will take probably 20 minutes, and then the next 20 minutes will be you guys. So I think the first question for all of you is, could you tell us a bit about your role? What does it consist of? What kind of skills do you need to be where you're at?
Oh, I'll go first.
Towards you.
So as Head of Costume at the Young Vic Theatre, you are coordinating teams for all of the shows that are coming into the space, both the main house and the two studios that we have. In regards of the teams, we're looking at the costume supervisors who work with the designers, any assistants and buyers that they may need, looking at the running team who'll be looking after the show, and that consists of wardrobe managers, dressers, and also wigs and makeup teams that go part of that show as well.
So running a makeup department, I'm the head of the department and I have a department of 6 people. And my job is to have a look at the sort of designs that the designer has for the show and then interpret those onto the actor's face. So you sort of like tweak it ever so slightly depending on how somebody looks, because you'll have your basic design, but then you just need to slightly move it around so it actually fits on someone's face. My job also involves training people, teaching them. When somebody new comes into our department, we have basically what we call 4 tracks, and each track has 2 big makeups on it, which doesn't sound a lot, but each makeup takes at least 30 minutes to do. And so our job is, one of my jobs is to teach them how to do these makeups. And it can take about 5 months for them to properly get round, so it's a big investment on the person that, you know, we get in. A lot of training. And then there's that's the sort of creative side of the job, and then the other side is all the other bits like the admin stuff, and so you do wear quite a few different hats when you run a team, because you've got to look after people's holidays, you've got to do your account side of things, you've got to do this, that and the other, you've got to order all your stock, and then you do the makeup on top of it as well. So it's quite broad what we actually do. So yeah.
And my job is not too dissimilar in that when you're in charge, you're running your teams, you're doing a lot of admin, running a painting studio, you're running a team of people who, obviously there's quite a lot of pastoral care, I think that's quite important to mention as well. But what we're doing is creating all the backcloths and all the sets, so you're constantly liaising with the massive collaboration that makes up a creative team. So from director, choreographers, designers, your production managers. So it's a really full-on job to do with that sort of collaboration, which is actually one of the reasons I really like it. And then it's meeting deadlines, costings, stock checks, you name it. So every week is busy weeks. And then ultimately seeing it on stage and making sure that it's all still working well. And not only do we work here, we work globally. So all our shows, quite a lot, travel globally. So it's making sure that some of our historical sets, which are really important, some sort of 50, 60 years old, are really looked after as well, and in certain circumstances made again. So it's really interesting, really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, so just to say, I personally really admire how much goes into these roles, because there's just not one fit for all, and we did a little tweak of like research into you guys as well. Like for Emma, we've seen loads of skills on LinkedIn. So if you say a scenic artist, you see a lot of skills, not just one. But in the house online, we have lots of young people that are just at the beginning of their career. And as much as we admire how much you do, how do you actually get there? Because it's just a lot, and it would be a great insight for us as young people to have more of a like starting point per se, because to get to the point of like doing all of those, we have to have loads of experience first.
You mentioned something only 5 minutes ago, and that for me said it all. That's the beginning. You mentioned the word passion. So if you've got the passion for something, I think that's a really good path to start with. And the fact you mentioned it immediately, I thought, that's so good. And how you do something like Mousetrap. There are so many things, but for me, I could go into more detail, but I just thought that for me is the first starter. It's having a passion for something, and then you're all here. And for all of you listening online, that's also the start of it. Shall I go further, or I think maybe you could add to?
I'd probably second that. It's being proactive and sort of really looking for those opportunities and making yourself available for all of those opportunities as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I first started out, the first thing that I did was I did an evening course in makeup because I was just interested in it, in makeup for theatre. And through that, I started to get in contact with like amateur dramatic groups and just offer my services for free and just say, can I come and help out, you know, and do some makeup. And so yeah, that was that. First of all, it gave me a little taster to say, do I like this or not? And I did. So I sort of carried on with that. And then it's the more you put yourself out there, even something small like an amateur dramatic group, someone will know someone that knows someone that can give you a little bit more information. So another thing that I would do as well was is contacting heads of departments all in theatres and just say, can I come in and watch? Because, and we do that all the time. We have people come in and just observe us. And it's really important because you get to know people, you get a face to a name, you can ask advice, you can get pushed, there's been times when someone's come in and done some work experience for me and I haven't had a job to give them, but 2 months down the line, I know someone's looking for a junior and I've been able to phone them up and say, get in contact with this person. Knocking on doors is really important. You do have to persist and sort of just push yourself. And I know it can be a little bit uncomfortable sometimes to sort of just keep going with that. But it really is the only way to sort of like get to know people and get to see how people work and, and just sort of like keep pushing and pushing like that. And eventually, at some point, a door will open and someone will say, okay, you can come in and do a little bit for me or you can do this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's an extent to which you kind of have to be willing to try new things and not just have like one idea of what you want to do in your head.
Yeah.
But something comes along, I'll try that.
Yeah.
And see what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Is it fair to say maybe not be, that's my personal understanding of what you said now, maybe don't be so obsessed, but be open to try out new things and maybe don't straight away try to get the West End job or the biggest thing, but just make use of any single little connection you have, and then you will get somewhere if you keep doing it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've had people come in and do some work experience with me and who have done, I don't know, some dailies on films and things like that, and they said, I've done that, film work's not for me. And then they've come in a theatre environment because it's very, very different, and said, actually, theatre's where I feel at home. This is what I'm looking for. So yeah, I think, don't just limit yourself to one idea. Do have a little look around and, you might think, yes, that's for me, no, that isn't, and, find your own little sort of path that way.
Actually, Sarah, you just mentioned film. We actually had this question down from before, really wanted to ask. We know that you've worked in both, so you started on TV and then moved to theatre, didn't you? Is that right?
Yeah, a very small amount of TV work I did when I first left.
So was there a particular reason why you transferred, and if so, for people that are at the beginning?
I don't know. I think I was very sort of open to whatever. The first theatre job I got was a very big. a lot of theatre jobs involves lots of wig work and hair work. You don't very much get sort of massive makeup shows. Lion King's quite unique like that. And I would have said that I felt I was quite confident doing makeup, but my hair skills weren't so great. So when this job presented itself to work on this big West End show with loads of wigs and hair pieces and all the rest of it, I thought, yeah, you know, let's just give that a go. So I did that, and yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. So would you have any advice on young people who are at the beginning and they don't know what's the right one for them, like TV, film, or stage? Like, how would you kind of hone in and choose the right one? Because you've had the experience.
I think you just have to
both.
try and just get some experience on all of those things and see. I mean, I know people that have just said, you know, film work, it's you know, there's a hell of a lot of sitting around waiting. It's really long days, and you know, whereas theatre's very fast paced. You know, you go in the door and you're off, and you know, you do all your preps and everything else, and you set up your makeup stations, and then the actors come in, and you know, you've only got a limited amount of time to make somebody up. So you sort of, you know, you keep going, and the lovely thing about theatre is it's live, anything can happen. So you've got to always be sort of prepared for whatever, and it's an exciting place to work. It's great. And it's a very family environment as well. It's a really nice, I think, working in theatre. It's you know, having been on TV sets and things like that in the past, you know, it can be a little bit lonely. Whereas you come into a theatre and you are very much part of this big community, and it does really feel like a family. People do care about each other, and I'd say it's a really friendly, lovely place to work. Theatres.
Oh, that's lovely.
I think so.
Yeah, if you're there sort of 8 days, 8 shows a week, it's that company for 2 months. You get to know them, talk to them, especially if you're working in costume. It's a very intimate thing to sort of be with a cast member, and you know, you spend so much time with everybody. At the end of the show, it can be quite emotional.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think that's a real draw of working in theatre.
Can I just add, though, that there are also, I think it's really important to think some people will be dipping in and out, but absolutely advice, I mean, like you, I love theatre and tried a few forays into other, but really liked theatre. But it's really good to try everything. Try a bit of TV, try a bit of film, try freelancing, try full-time. Ultimately, it's about knowing what you're like and trusting your own instinct, thinking, I feel good in a team full-time somewhere, or I feel good dipping in and out. So it's about sort of knowing what kind of person you are, and where you then eventually, you just sort of have a light bulb moment. You think, I feel comfortable here. You know that moment when you walk in, sometimes you think, I feel uncomfortable, or I feel really comfortable. And when you know that, then that's a really good, trust your instincts, I'd say too.
Just on the freelance point then, because I think that's quite a mystified sort of area of the creative industry, kind of people working freelance. How would you suggest that people sort of set up their, I guess, like that kind of self-employment status and get themselves out there?
And I think that's a really important question, because it's something that isn't often taught enough, but it should be. So wherever you end up doing it, whether you learn it through an apprenticeship or you're at college studying, that side is really, really important. So some freelancers, you know, love being freelancers. As I said, they love dipping in and out of places. They love the change. They love the different venues. You know, for some people, it really suits them. And for others, it absolutely doesn't. So, yeah, learning about the tax side, how to set up your website, all of that, wherever you go to train. But there are also loads of us who work in the industry who are willing to help too. So there's books out there. There's incredible, you know, online now. There's nothing you can't learn through, you know, even what we're doing today. People are listening to us listening. So, yeah, websites, everything can help you.
And right now, all three of you kind of like attached to a venue or like a company. How do you say that's kind of different to freelance work? Just like in practice?
I think when you're a freelancer and you're like sort of part of the job is looking for your next job and being able to sort of balance your time and book your availability, whereas it's like a different sort of time management when you're within a building and you're in an organisation. So yeah, getting used to that kind of practice is quite important as a freelancer. Knowing how you're going to sort of organise yourself is really important.
Keyword organisation. Being organised is, I think all of us would agree, you've got to be organised. Yeah.
But then I think as a follow-up to that, I think a lot of people worried about job security as well, with like freelance work and not kind of having that. I mean, maybe advice isn't like the best thing to give because it's hard because you don't know people's situations, but how do you propose that people maybe tackle that kind of worry about job security with freelance work?
I think the pandemic has shown a lot of us that it's, you know, everything is a little bit vulnerable. But of all of the freelancers I know, they really like being freelance, you know, and I suppose that's a difficult thing to say post-pandemic, because I think a lot had a hard time. But yeah, I think being freelance, for, as I said, for many, it's how they really like. And you just need to learn to trust that once you're really established in your field, the phone will go. You know, you will get that call. I freelanced for some years, and personally, I preferred being with a venue and with my team. But yeah.
And I think as well, particularly with the pandemic, you know, a lot of people did lose their jobs, and a lot of people then turned to do something else. And I think what it did show a lot of us as well is you can actually do something else. This isn't just actually all you do or all you're capable of doing. You can use your skills in other ways. I mean, just from my own point of view, because obviously the theatre was shut for well over a year, I retrained as a florist and then worked as a florist for a few months, you know, and using your creativity, you know, with the makeup and all the rest of it, you just transfer those skills onto something else. So I would imagine, not that I do a lot of freelance work, but when people do freelance, they've probably got a couple of other little strings to their bow as well that they can just go off and maybe do a little bit of something else or whatever. So yeah, I mean, you know,
that word transferable is exactly what I was going to say. I know this is called TheatreCraft, but certainly a lot of theatre technicians used all the transferable skills, and it's fantastic. You know, there are so many different things one can do, and being open, being available, being able to, as you said, you know, do different things. It's a really nice to see in somebody as well. So that willingness to try different things.
And I think keeping in touch with different organisations if you're a freelancer, letting them know your availability. Like, you don't have to feel as if you should only sort of email an organisation once. Keep on emailing them, keep in contact with them, because your availability changes, and we as an organisation won't know that unless you keep in contact with us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, in terms of keeping in contact as well, I personally know that I get really awkward. It's just like, I don't want to be so noisy, always nudging people. Is there a way, just moving on from that point, do you have as an organisation, because you work with the Young Vic, is there a preference of how people should approach you? Because no one has time for all those long emails about personal lives and stuff, but how do you make it professional, interesting, but also enough? I don't know, yeah.
I mean, I'm quite open to sort of accepting an email. If you click on most of our credits on the Young Vic website, it's a link to an email. And if you send through a CV or a cover letter, it will come directly to me, or you can email the production administrator, or you can email box office and they'll normally send through. So if you email an organisation that doesn't have a link to an email to a person that you want to get in contact to, you can just send things through to the box office, and most oftenly it will end up with the right person. Or if an organisation has an education department, they will also organise things for you or set things up, or redirect you into the right area, or let you know who to contact. But I don't think there is like a particularly right or wrong way of contacting someone or what to say. I think the fact that you're making that point of contact is what's important, and letting that person know that you are interested is what I would read from an email. It's not the grammar. It's what your passion is and what you're interested in, and what you want to find out is what's important.
Yeah, I think that's really reassuring, just personally.
Also remember that we were you once. Yeah. We felt nervous about approaching, but don't worry. And sometimes I always think, you know, if I don't get back to people immediately, I make a point of always eventually doing it. So be a bit patient, just recognise that we could be very busy, but it's fine. We were you know, and we understand. So perseverance as well. Yeah. It's okay. In fact, we like it because we want to bring in new people. So fresh ideas.
Oh, thank you so much. That was all like really, really like illuminating, I think, for all of us.
I agree.
I think we might turn into questions from the audience and from people online as well now.
Don't all put your hands up at once. Yeah. I think a mic is coming towards you.
No, she's going to say it and then I'll...
Perfect. Sorry about
I'll try speaking loudly as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
That worked.
So I want to come back to the question of hybridity within theatre, as in doing multiple things, and not just hybridity in terms of theatre, TV, film, but also hybridity in terms of doing costume, for example, but also being involved with other aspects of making theatre. But also hybridity in terms of doing theatre, but also doing other things in order to support yourself and make money next to that. To what extent is that a drawback or a positive?
So the question, just for the people at home, is in terms of the hybridity between film, TV, theatre, kind of what are the drawbacks, what are the setbacks with that? Sorry, we have to repeat just for the people at home as well. There you go.
A bit convoluted.
Yeah.
I don't think that there are any drawbacks to having your skills and have it be transferable between different sectors and even sort of different crafts. I think if I was sort of reading your CV and you had a costume skill and then it might transfer into hair and makeup, like they interconnect and there's ways to sort of bring those two together into a job. So I wouldn't say it's a drawback.
But if it's not necessarily interconnected. So in my case, I do costume, but I'm also a performance historian.
Oh, right. I mean, I find that really interesting, the fact that you've got like a historical art side to you. You would know then if you're working with a supervisor or a designer, if you're looking at something and you'd know the provenance of what that costume is, or you'd be able to give a bit of detail that someone else in the room might not have. So yeah, I think there are always ways to make those things work.
When you're a team builder too, you look for really interesting, you don't want everybody to be the same. So somebody with different skills is really useful. So
Yeah, I mean, I would say the more skills, the better, to be honest with you.
Precisely.
I don't think it makes you look less interested in one position just because you've got different skill sets. I would say that makes you more interesting, than someone who's maybe just only ever done makeup. If the fact that they might have come from a costume background or a scenic artist background and moved, sort of like sideways into a different direction, I couldn't see that as being a problem in the slightest. It wouldn't make me think this person isn't committed, basically. It wouldn't make me think that at all. So, yeah.
having said that, I think when you're applying for something specific, would we not all agree you have to be quite careful in order to get through that application? You have to be quite succinct in what you're applying for and your answers. Now, if below in your statement you write about the rest of this, but just be aware, a lot of us look at a lot of CVs and a lot of applications, and if they're too full and too varied, and there are lots which aren't, you might not get through. So just be a little bit more succinct. But of course we're looking for really interesting other skills.
Really good answer. Thank you. Any more questions? Any online as well?
The only question we've had is, what pathways are there into Stagecraft? Is most of the work in this sector freelance, or are there opportunities for extended or long-term contracts?
Well, certainly in theatre, some shows run for years. Some companies like the Old Vic will do turnovers of different, and I would imagine that you require different
sort of show by show.
Yeah, how many people you need. But yeah, I mean, there are certainly, if you're looking for a bit of stability, then there are certainly shows around that that last for several years, decades even sometimes. So yeah, you definitely can have that if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Like The Lion King?
Like The Lion King. I wasn't going to mention my own show, but yeah, like The Lion King. And like Mamma Mia and other shows out there, there's loads that have been around for a very, very long time.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, we do, just over here.
I have a question. I'm not actually from here, so I find it really hard to actually get inside the industry and know what my skills apply for. I know what it applies for in my country, but there are different names here, and it's actually very
So the question is, you know, if you're not from this country, kind of the skills and maybe the topics or themes of this talk are maybe called different things. How do I get into that industry if I'm not from here and I'm not maybe that young and can access all the young programs? Kind of what's the best tips in that case?
Ooh, I don't know.
I would say, I think you have to really persevere. And you know, I don't want to sort of say it's going to be necessarily that easy, but make sure, once you've decided in a way what skill you feel that you want to go into, in a way you will need to be fluent in some of that terminology, for example. But I've seen people from every country work on our stage at the Opera House, from all over the world. So I think it's about being persevering and just really, you know, as you said earlier, you know, even doing some work for free, because ultimately it'll be about who you know, a communication and a lot of just sort of persevering in sort of getting to know more contacts. So you being here today, you've talked to us, that's a first contact already. So specifically what you're interested in, perhaps take it on from here and then go and talk to somebody about that afterwards. I think that's all I can...
I mean, I think, and you know, I'd agree. I mean, if I look at the company that I work for, there are people from, every country in the world. You know, you can find people, and the age groups as well, you know. It's completely diverse. So, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't see that as a barrier at all.
The age thing, definitely not. If anything, sometimes when I see a more mature application for something, I know that you've got other life skills, and they're really useful.
Yeah.
So don't be put off by that. My own assistant came to me age 36 as a training, so, you know, he's in his 50s now, so
yeah.
Don't be put off. It's sometimes very good. So.
No, I just say about it because I see a lot of programs for young people, which are amazing here. But I don't see for people my age, so I'm just like, how do I get to the programs at my age? So.
I think if there isn't anything specific, just contact the theatres directly, because you never know what will happen if you find their education department or if you speak to one of the production technical HODs. They'll always sort of respond in a way that could be helpful. So if you don't see something first off on the website, don't be put off from contacting them directly just to find out information anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to sort of just do that little small thing at the beginning. You know, you phone up a theatre, go to the stage door or whatever, and get an actual name. Because I think it really means a lot when I get a CV or a letter sent to me and they actually use my name and the spelling's correct. It might seem a little thing, but it just shows to me they've got a little bit of detail. They've gone that little step further to make contact. And I always think that's a really good thing rather than just, you know, dear whoever or whatever. You know, I think, yeah, get hold of a name, spell it properly, and yeah, make me happy.
With spell check nowadays, there's no excuse. I agree.
Make it personal then.
Yeah, absolutely. It just shows that you've done that extra little step. You've done that little bit more research, and you know, so it does show.
Yeah.
You know, a bit more commitment, I think.
Amazing. You again.
Yes, sorry. When sending off prospective applications, including CV, is it useful or not to have a link to a personal website or with details of projects and things?
So when sending off prospective applications or CVs, is it useful to include your website or the projects that you're doing at the moment?
I know from my own experience, the amount of CVs and emails and stuff that I get sent, I would probably say 3/4 of them do have links to stuff that they've done. I think it's just the norm now. Most people do have some form of, you know, website or whatever, and yeah, so most people put it on there. And yeah, I'll have a look, you know, definitely. So yeah.
I have a sort of slightly different answer because it's a really interesting one. This years ago, absolutely. But applications now, the way we do it, you don't even get a CV. You have to do the application. So that makes it slightly different. So if half will send that link, personally, I think it's more unfair for me to look before. So I just try and base it on their application, which equally, I'm very aware, can be quite a tricky thing to write. But I know a lot of teaching now is how to write your applications. But if and when through, then absolutely. And then if you're lucky enough to get through to interview, then absolutely. I would have had a really good look before. But even independently, sometimes just an individual might send me an email out of the blue, just say I'm really interested in, pursuing this work, and send their CV or a web link, and I love looking at them. They are creative in themselves. So but for the actual application,
I think we just do it differently because we don't have a standard application form that people...
ours is, it's not even a name, it's a number, no gender, it's very, very...
That's really inclusive. I think that's really, really reassuring as well for the people that are at the beginning, so that if they don't have that website, but they've got the passion, then they've got somewhere to start from. So
you can do it through your writing.
Great to hear, yeah.
Even your first email can be,
But if you're sending something through and you don't have a website, I often get photographs or like PDFs of examples of work, which are always sort of good to see. So you don't always have to have like an amazing website. It's just examples of pictures is good to see.
Oh, I think we have an online question.
Do you prefer to look at portfolios or CVs, and what sorts of things make a portfolio stand out?
CVs, you sort of in a way have to have a CV as well as your portfolio. We now look at both online portfolios and hard copy portfolios. I like one that's really interesting to look at, varied, honest is crucial. I don't want anything in it that doesn't either explain what that person has done within it. Make it, I always try and say to some of our students and our apprentices when we're creating them, see it as a creation itself. So enjoy making it. Some people, I've got to make my portfolio. Well, you'll love doing it once you start thinking about it as a creative thing. So I like ones that are sort of, they've taken time to think about the pictures, not too much, but not too little.
Not too many. And I think, I think it's quite a good thing for yourself as well to be able to look at your work, and everybody obviously photographs what they do and the rest of it, and have a true assessment and say, well, actually, that really doesn't look that great, so I won't put that in. That's a great photo. Because as much as you can be hard on yourself and say, oh, that doesn't look good, that doesn't look good, it's equally important to go, actually, that does look good, and that's nice, and I'm going to include that in my portfolio.
And get advice from others too. Say, what do you think is a good thing?
I think CVs are quite good, just to go back to the question that was asked before about having sort of different skills. If you put it all on a CV and you can write about how that skill could possibly relate to what you're applying for, because you're ultimately selling yourself. You are the object to sell. And if you can say, like, I do this, that, and the other subject, and this is how I can relate it to this job, then having a CV and putting all that information in there is really useful. And then when you do get to the point where you can come in person, seeing your portfolio and seeing examples of work in real life is really good.
And it's nice seeing the pictures as well and talking through the picture with the person that's come to see you, and to say, how did you get to this stage? What skills did you use? What materials did you use, etc., and get them to talk their way through it. Which gives you a really good insight into the person and how creatively they work as well. So yeah, I like seeing portfolios. It's good.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
You've spoken a lot about perseverance. As a young person, obviously, I graduated into the pandemic, wanting to get into this industry. Obviously, it's very hard. What would you kind of recommend for anyone that wants to get into Stagecraft? If they've graduated and then maybe don't have access to a studio or aren't continuing their work kind of in a studio, what would you recommend? Obviously, there's only so much you can do at home, especially if you're thinking about wigs or, those sorts of things, or scenic art when you're thinking of big sets. Kind of what would you recommend, and how would you recommend them continuing to skill up their craft?
I think that's a really good question, first of all. And what I've seen, certainly my own children have done, 2 of them a similar situation. Seeing what you've had to go through, all I can feel is huge sort of respect for, what a lot of people have actually achieved. I would say we are opening up big time. The fact that we're sitting here is a big start. We are physically opening up. We're beginning our tours, and I know our LMP and the apprenticeships will be, very much starting again. If you're at home, work on your skills. So yes, even as a scenic artist, I look for drawing skills, continuing to see plays, do the stuff that you are interested in, take photographs, build up your own set of skills, which ultimately will be in your CV or will be in your portfolio, and get in touch, it is all opening up, and there is still so much that can be done from home, but hats off to you all for even being here. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's maintaining your interest, maintaining that interest to go to galleries, to go to films, to go and see shows that are coming back now. I know loads of makers who don't have studios, so you don't have to worry about sort of having that professional space. It can be any space. You sort of make the best with what you've got and keep going, and that's what will be visible when you come to sort of meet people who are able to sort of offer work and things like that. That's what will show.
Yeah, and I think as well it's like just continuing to, whatever your skill set is to continue to practice it all the time. Even just doing makeup, you've got your own face you can work on. You can just keep doing it, and and just practice, and you'll get better and better and better, and and then you'll be very prepared when you walk through the door.
Yes.
Has there been barriers that you all overcame? Because I'm obviously assuming it's not an easy route to get to where you all are. And how did you overcome them? As an advice to young people, to any ages, people from any ages.
I'll tell you one thing, if I'm totally honest, I didn't really find that I had really huge amounts of barriers to get through. The biggest barrier I would say I had was that it was a world that I didn't know anything about, because I don't come from a family that went to the theatre. I mean, I never went to theatre as a kid, as a teenager, knew nothing about it. So it was a completely alien world to me. So in terms of barriers, then I would have said it was my own mental barrier that I had to sort of get through to sort of, which is why I think, TheatreCraft and groups like this are so incredible, because they do bring people who have never been to theatre into a theatre, and not just to watch a play or a musical, but also to say it's not just the people on stage, there's a huge amount of people backstage that make this happen, and there's a huge amount of different jobs available, things that you would never even have thought about, or even know existed. So my barrier would be the fact that I never got to see anything until I think I was probably about 18 or something for the first time I ever, stepped inside a theatre. Yeah. So.
Quick plug there. We're wearing the Mousetrap t-shirts, but if you know of anyone, or if you're one of those people, Mousetrap is a theatre educational charity, and the aim is to exactly do that, to bring more young people into the theatre. They offer loads of cheap tickets and events and courses and stuff, even studio space. We were just talking about gaining your skills, rehearsal space and stuff. So check it out. You can get involved. We're the Youth Forum, and it's really, really good to get more young people into 100%. The theatre.
Yeah, it's really
or if you can
it.
donate as well, it's a charity. Quick plug.
Yeah.
And it's a great charity. It's how I first started watching shows. And I think money was probably one of my biggest barriers. And it's just knowing that there are keys out there, and you have to sort of be willing to find those keys and use them. There are quite a few different foundations that will offer cheap tickets to go and see shows, to sort of open those doors for you to see theatre. It can kind of feel like quite a bit of a daunting, expensive process, but there are ways to access it.
Definitely.
Things like Mousetrap is great.
Yeah.
Definitely. We've got another question.
So I'm new to London, but I know Royal Opera House from a long time. I have been watching shows online from YouTube, and to last pandemic's time, the Our House, Your House program was one of
So the question is it possible to get into set design whilst also studying, maybe part-time, those sorts of things?
I think you sort of answered it. So of course it is. So by being part of other sort of community groups or your local, the fact that you're watching the YouTubes is fantastic. But yes, absolutely. I can't think of any other. You're doing it already, it seems, with.
Yeah, like my PG is also something related to making. Like I'm doing design for manufacture. It's a manufacturing course. I think like I'm learning the basic skills, but I would also like to apply it somewhere.
Yeah, so there's summer schools, there are online courses. Over the pandemic, I did a lot of teaching with our MA students at Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, which was fantastic. So we could do a lot of online stuff, but learning skills, model making, you know, there's a lot you could do there as well.
And I think I've had a few what we call DEPs, people that just come in and help out when we're short-staffed or whatever. A couple of times they've been makeup students at London College of Fashion or whatever, and they're doing their studying during the day, and then maybe once or twice a week they might come and do some work in the theatre. So yeah, people do find ways of combining both. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think, did we have another question in the audience? Okay, then we should have an online question, Matt.
We've got about 5 minutes, so last question. Right.
What has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge? Oh.
I think as every day is different, there's always a new challenge and there's always something to overcome. And I think having the trust in the team around you is really important, and knowing that they're there to help and to do their job is how you get through those challenges.
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, confidence too. I think confidence, having confidence, and I hear so many people say, oh, I wish I hadn't done this job, you know, you seem to love your job. And I think, yeah, I always sort of had that, I knew I wanted to do what I loved. Someone once said that to me when I was training, and I did pretty much like an apprenticeship originally, and it was like, do what you love and the money will follow. And I just always thought that was a really good maxim for having a bit of confidence, and it was then overcoming, you know, at times, having that confidence. So
yeah, I'd second that.
I overcame, yes.
Yeah, I'd second that. I'd say definitely just believe that, you know, you know that you can do it, that you deserve a place there, you know, and yeah, a bit of self-belief. Yeah, I'd say.
That's so lovely. I think it's a great note to end on, especially in a competitive industry. Just always be confident, always follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Arts are really important. We were just talking about that before. Fun fact, there was more people visiting theatres than the whole of Premier League football matches in 2019 in the UK. So save the arts. Arts are important. Be confident.
Perseverance as well, I think, is a great thing to take away from that. Just like keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so valuable.
Thank you so
Even
much.
as on a personal note, I've learnt so much, and I'm sure most of us have. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming. Thank you for the people watching us online as well. I think that's a wrap.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
And best
you.
luck.